James Clear once weighed over 300 pounds. He did not crash diet. He did not hire a trainer. He started making his bed, then one push-up, then one glass of water before coffee. 2 years later, he lost over 100 pounds and wrote the best-selling habits book ever published. The secret was not motivation. It was the compound effect of small actions repeated daily. Research from University College London tracked 96 people and found that on average it takes 66 days for a behavior to become automatic. Not 21 days like the myth says, 66. But here is the important part. The people who succeeded were not more disciplined than those who failed. They simply started smaller. Most people try to change their lives dramatically and quit within 2 weeks. Not because they are weak, but because the brain is not built for dramatic change. It is built for small, repeated patterns. Neuroscience shows that as habits form, brain activity shifts from the prefrontal cortex, which requires effort and willpower, to the basal ganglia, which runs on autopilot. The smaller the habit, the faster that shift happens. Here are 7 habits that neuroscience says will change your life within 30 days. None take more than 5 minutes. All of them are free. Write for 2 minutes every morning. Not a diary, not a diary, not a plan for the day. Just whatever is on your mind, put on paper. Psychologist James Pennebaker at the University of Texas has spent over 30 years studying this. His research shows that 2 minutes of expressive writing reduces anxiety, improves immune function, and increases working memory. Participants in his studies showed measurable improvements after just 4 days of writing. Here is why it works neurologically. When a thought stays in your head, it loops. Your brain treats it as an open task and keeps circling back to it. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. But the moment you write that thought down, your brain registers it as processed. The loop closes. The mental bandwidth frees up. 2 minutes of writing in the morning can give you the clarity that 2 hours of overthinking cannot. End your shower with 30 seconds of cold water. You do not need a 10-minute ice bath, just 30 seconds at the end of your regular shower. A large Dutch trial with over 3,000 participants found that people who ended their showers with cold water had a 29% reduction in sick days from work. A study from Bournemouth University found that after cold water exposure, participants felt significantly more alert, attentive, and energized. And research in the Journal of Thermal Biology showed improved immune cell function. But the real benefit is not physical, it is psychological. B.J. Fogg, the Stanford behavior scientist, explains that habits are wired in by emotion, not repetition. Every morning when you choose to do something uncomfortable and you survive it, you feel a small burst of pride. That emotion wires the habit in faster than discipline ever could. You are training your brain to associate discomfort with accomplishment, and that pattern carries into every other hard decision you face that day. Not a workout, not a power walk. Just 10 minutes of movement with zero input. No music, no podcasts, no scrolling. A Stanford study found that walking increases creative output by an average of 60%. But the creative boost happens not because of the physical movement, but because of the absence of stimulation. When you walk without input, your brain activates what neuroscientists call the default mode network. This is the neural system responsible for insight, self-reflection, and connecting ideas that seemed unrelated. It is where your best thinking lives. But it only turns on when external noise stops. Einstein did his best thinking during long walks. Darwin walked a gravel path called the Sand Walk every afternoon. Beethoven walked for hours through Vienna. They were not exercising. They were thinking. And the research now confirms what they knew intuitively. 10 minutes of phoneless walking is not a break from productivity. It is the most productive thing you can do. When you feel anxious, say, "I am feeling anxious." When you are angry, say, "I am noticing anger right now." When you feel overwhelmed, say, "This is overwhelm." This is a neuroscience technique called affect labeling. Researchers at UCLA found that when people named their emotions out loud, activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear and threat center, decreased by up to 50%. Simply putting a word to what you feel activates the prefrontal cortex, which calms the emotional response almost instantly. Unnamed emotions feel like chaos. They are big and blurry and overwhelming. But the moment you label one, you create distance between you and the feeling. You shift from "I am anxious" to "I am a person noticing anxiety." That tiny shift changes your relationship with the emotion entirely. You stop being controlled by it and start observing it. Therapists call this diffusion. And it takes less than 5 seconds. A Harvard study found that using a phone or laptop before bed suppresses melatonin production by up to 50% and delays your circadian rhythm by 90 minutes. That means even with 8 hours of sleep, your body processes it as 6.5. But the screen is not the only problem. The content is. Scrolling social media before bed activates your brain's comparison circuits. You see other people's curated highlights, your brain evaluates your own life against them, and you fall asleep in a state of subtle dissatisfaction that you cannot even name. Replace the last 30 minutes with a book, a quiet conversation, or simply sitting in dim light. Your sleep quality will improve within 1 week, not because you are sleeping longer, but because you are finally sleeping deeply. Answer one question every night. What did I do well today? Not what went wrong. Not what needs fixing, what went well. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, conducted a study where participants wrote 3 things that went well each day for just 1 week. The result was a measurable increase in happiness that lasted 6 months. 6 months of increased well-being from 1 week of practice. That is an extraordinary return on a 30-second investment. The reason this works is your brain's negativity bias. Evolution wired us to remember threats and failures more vividly than successes. Useful when we needed to remember which predators to avoid. Destructive when it means you end every day replaying everything that went wrong. The one-line review overrides that bias. It trains your brain to scan for evidence of your own competence. Over 30 days, that fundamentally changes how you see yourself. Not affirmations. Not "I am rich" or "I am confident." Your brain rejects those because it knows they are not currently true. Instead, use identity-based language. I am the kind of person who shows up. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. I am building something meaningful. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that when people framed their habits as identity rather than tasks on a checklist, they were significantly more likely to maintain them long-term. The shift from "I have to exercise" to "I am an active person" changes the behavior from a chore into a characteristic. Your brain does not argue with identity. When you believe you are a disciplined person, discipline becomes a default, not a struggle. Here is the total time for all 7 habits. A 2-minute journal, 30 seconds of cold water. A 10-minute walk, 5 seconds of naming a feeling. 30 minutes of screen-free wind down. 1 line of reflection. 1 sentence about who you are becoming. Less than 25 minutes a day. No money, no equipment, no willpower required. But compounded over 30 days, these 7 small actions change how you think, how you feel, how you sleep, and how you see yourself. Not because any single one is revolutionary, but because together they build a system. And systems beat motivation every single time.